The Prime Minister has announced repatriation flights to bring home Australians stranded in Israel. Among a group of Australians wanting to return home is a Newcastle couple, Paul and Audrey West, who are leading around 33 Australians in Israel. And they were there when this conflict escalated. Joining me now is their daughter, Brittany West. Brittany, thanks so much for your time. How are your mum and dad first?
Look, we're really relieved to say that we have managed to get mum and dad out of there. That is a huge answer to lots of prayer. But unfortunately, we won't be completely relieved until the entire group is out. At this stage, the majority have left, but we understand that there's still 5 people from the group that haven't managed to leave yet.
Okay, why is that? Were they all booked on different commercial flights? What's the story?
Yeah, look, unfortunately, at the moment, it's just a lucky lottery to see which flights are being cancelled and which are not. So my parents were originally booked to be one of the last to leave the group on Thursday. Their original flights were cancelled, and then it was just a huge scramble to book any flights that we could. So all of the group were forced to just try and make their own way home and book any flights. And as you can imagine, the flights are filled up really quickly. They're very limited. And of course, sometimes they're arriving at the airport, taking the dangerous and risky journey from the hotel to the airport, only to find that their flights have been cancelled or there's more bombings coming in, so they're delayed or postponed. So, for example, one of the couples there have had 2 flight cancellations already and are just waiting to see if the 3rd flight that they're booked on is going to take off.
Right, so where were they when this attack occurred?
So the group were in Tel Aviv. It was around about 6:30 in the morning, and they were walking along the beach when the sirens started going off, and they had to just make a run for the closest shelter, which happened to be in a nearby cafe. From what I understand, most cafes and apartment buildings have a bomb shelter inbuilt for times such as this. And so they were forced to just run there and wait until it was safe enough for them to get back to their hotel. And from there, they had to just wait in their hotel until they could get flights out.
Right, and so where have they been since? In that hotel?
Yeah, so they weren't able to leave the hotel at all. They've been there. They've been really well looked after by the staff. But as the sirens are going off and the missiles are incoming, they have to run back to the bomb shelter, and they just stay in there for as long as they need to until the imminent danger is over. The latest reports that I've had from those still on the ground are saying that some of the latest explosions, I guess, have sounded closer than ever. They've said it's louder than ever, and they're very concerned that they're coming closer.
Right, so they're in Tel Aviv now, and they can hear when those rockets hit.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So They said it kind of sounds like a pop, pop, pop or a big thud, explosions happening. From what I understand, the Iron Dome is protecting a lot of the incoming rockets to those areas around Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
But there's still so much danger.
Yeah, the Iron Dome stops around 90% of those missiles, but still 10% get through. It is quite extraordinary. So What is life like? Have your parents relayed to you what it's like on the streets of Tel Aviv? Or I guess they don't really know, because you said they're staying in their hotel the whole time. So it is really that there aren't people out walking the streets at all.
No, the streets are completely empty except for those who are really only bringing emergency supplies. So obviously people need to keep eating, and there's medical staff, but other than that, the streets are completely deserted. And it's really only those who, for example, from the group need to try and get to the airport that are risking that journey. And I guess it's, do you risk staying there in the hotel, or do you risk the journey to the airport? Do you risk the flight out? There's a lot of risks. So I guess it's just whatever is the lesser risk at the time.
Yeah, it is quite a dangerous journey under these circumstances to get from Tel Aviv to Ben Gurion Airport. What has it been like for your parents and yourself to be dealing with DFAT?
Look, it seems like DFAT maybe are lacking a little bit of coordination, to be honest. They've been very kind and considerate, but in terms of being upfront with information, it's been quite frustrating. Sometimes we've found that the information that the emergency hotline here in Australia is giving is conflicting to what the embassy in Israel is saying. And so that's been frustrating, because one is saying you need to try and leave by foot over into Jordan, the bridge crossings are open. And then another one is saying don't leave your hotel, the bridge crossings are closed, don't try and go by foot, it's too dangerous. So that's been really confusing and difficult, especially for us as the family back here who are trying to get as much information as possible and to help those who are still left there.
Right, and we heard today from Penny Wong that there will be repatriation flights. So are your parents and the 5 that are still in Tel Aviv, have they made contact about getting on those flights? Is there a confirmation that they have a seat?
So my parents have managed to just get out on a commercial flight.
Right, got it.
For the 5 others that are still left there, they have registered with DFAT, which is what they've been told to do, but they've had no confirmation about whether they've got a place on these 2 planes. And I think it's difficult because, you know, from what we hear, there's thousands of Australians waiting there, and 2 planes is great, but it's probably not enough at the moment. And I think that what we saw is that it's only for people who don't have a commercial booking on an airline. And so it's kind of catch-22 in a way, because like I said, some of these couples, they technically have a booking, but it's being cancelled constantly. And so do they cancel their commercial booking and hope to get a place on the repatriation flights, or do they try to go ahead with their commercial booking and risk having it cancelled? So it's very difficult.
Yeah, it certainly is. Brittany, tell me, how long was this church group actually in Israel before the war broke out?
So they'd been there for around about 2 weeks, touring all around Israel. They'd been up to the north, and just days, literally 24 hours before the war broke out, they were down on the Gaza border on the Israel side, overlooking Gaza, and they were right there, you know, right at the border crossing there.
Yeah, a lot of Australians would have walked those same paths and done exactly the same thing. And what's the age of the group, Brittany?
Oh, look, they range from in their 20s right up to in their 70s. It's a big range.
I mean, this is a massive trip for all of those people, whatever age you are. So if there's a silver lining here, they got to do the pilgrimage that they went for, obviously.
Sure. Yeah, they did. And for a lot of them, it's a really pivotal moment in their life to be able to go and experience, I guess, what they call the Holy Land and see the sights of Jesus. And it's very exciting. And I think nobody predicted what could have unfolded. But we're not going to rest until we can get, you know, the 5 final members of the group out. And indeed, all Australians that want to leave, we will keep working and we'll keep lobbying the government for more flights until we can get everybody out safely. And obviously, our hearts go out to both sides of the Israelis and the Palestinian civilians who are caught in the crossfire. It's just heartbreaking.
It is. Brittany, thank you so much for that, and do keep us posted on those 5 remaining members of that group that remain, but it looks like they'll get out on one of these 3 flights that have been chartered by the Australian government. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.